Hey everyone, this is Mr. K, and today it's part 8 of our Precalculus summer homework, which is multiplying and simplifying fractions. Again, factoring is going to be really important for this, as well as stating any restrictions that we may have. So, looking at the first problem, I already see it's kind of set up nice for us, where we could cancel out those x plus 3's, and you just simply left with 6x over x plus 1. Because whenever you're multiplying fractions, you just multiply the top, multiply the bottom. The one thing we will say is we got to state our restrictions. So x could not equal negative 3, or x could not equal negative 1. Otherwise, that's it. You're done. Looking at the next one, we have some factoring to do. So first, if I factor the first denominator there, I'm going to be left with, I'll have it as x minus 4, and over, that factors to x plus 1, x plus 2. And that's going to be times. Now factor the numerator over here, we would have 6x and then x plus 2. And that's over, this factors to x plus 4, x minus 4. And so now, again, doesn't matter like whether they're on the part of the same fraction or not, because since these are being multiplied together, we can just cancel wherever we see them. So x plus 2's would go away, x minus 4's would go away, and so we're left with 6x on the top, and on the bottom we're left with x plus 1 and x plus 4, and you can just leave it like that. You don't need to multiply all that out. However, we have quite a few restrictions. We know that x cannot equal negative 1, negative 2, or plus or minus 4. So those are all of our restrictions that we had for that problem. Looking at the next one, the one thing I will say is whenever you see something like this where it's a number minus x, I always like to flip that around and then put a negative out in front. So you could think of this as like negative x plus 1, since the 1 is positive. And then if we factor out a negative, that's going to make your life much easier when it comes to like looking for things to cancel out. So this first fraction, I would rewrite it as 1 divided by negative, and then parentheses x minus 1. And if, again, to double check your work, you can always distribute that negative, flip it around, you'll get back to where you started. And then on the top here, we'd factor that to x plus 1, x minus 1, and that's over x plus 1. And now you can see the reason why I did that is because now I can see those x minus 1's will cancel, x plus 1's will cancel, and so because we're left with nothing on the bottom, we have a placeholder of 1, so this is going to be 1 divided by negative 1, which is just negative 1. However, again, we have our restrictions. We got to say that x cannot equal plus or minus 1, and that is our answer. The next one, and actually the next couple, whenever you're dividing by a fraction, you can always change it to multiplying by the reciprocal. So for example, like this is like, I'm taking this fraction here divided by this fraction here. I'm going to take this bottom one here, and I'm going to flip that around and then turn it into multiplication. So I'll leave the first fraction as 3x plus 1 over 2x, but now I'm going to write this as times 5 over 3x plus 2. And now it's just, can we simplify that, yes or no? There really isn't anything you can do to simplify this. Like, a lot of students are going to want to cancel out these 3x's. You can't, because think of it like as the whole thing in parentheses. You don't have the same thing inside the parentheses. So that's why those cannot cancel out. So you're just left with 5 times 3x plus 1 over 2x times 3x plus 2. And now for our restrictions here, I know that x cannot equal 0. But for this one, you might, if you can't do it in your head, maybe do a little bit of work off to the side and say 3x plus 2, we got to set that equal to 0, because we can't equal 0, so subtract 2 on both sides. And then then divide by 3, and you should get x cannot equal negative 2/3. So our restrictions would be x cannot equal 0 or negative 2/3. And that is it. Same logic applies to the next problem, so I'm going to have x over 3 times 7 over 2x. And now, because this is all being multiplied together, I can cancel out those x's there. If you'd rather think of it like this, so that way then, oh, I have the same thing inside the parentheses, that's fine. The only time you really run into trouble is when you have addition and subtraction. That's when students tend to make mistakes. So I can just multiply this out, and I'd have 7, 6, and then I just need to state that x cannot equal 0. And that's it. The last problem is going to take a bit of work. Like, it's because we have like a fraction here, but there's addition, and there's not a fraction here. Like, it gets a little messy. So what I always say is, fractions suck, so let's get rid of them. So I'm going to multiply the top and bottom by x. And I can do that because whenever I multiply the numerator and denominator, it's just like multiplying by 1, because x over x is just 1. So I'm not changing the problem, I'm just making it look different. On the bottom, that should just be 3x squared. On the top, if you distribute this x, you end up with these x's canceling, and so you're just left with 2. And then this is still being multiplied by x as well, because you have to distribute, so that becomes 4x. So that's a simplified version of it. If you want, you can factor out the 2 out of the top, and so you're left with just 1 plus 2x, and that's all over 3x squared, but there's not really anything else you can do with that. And then the only other thing we got to state is that x cannot equal 0. I hope you found this helpful, and have a great day.